So we are recording. So it is 12/26/2022. It is the day after Christmas. I do appreciate Aubrey, Sierra, Sherry, and Hannah for showing up. I know, this is not where we want to be on the day after Christmas, but I will make this as quick and as painless as humanly possible. Sherry had some questions we already covered on the discussions. Anyone else have any questions or comments over last week? I think silence is a big no. So I'm going to share my screen. And just a reminder, if you are behind, try your best to get caught up this week. That goes with discussions too. If you're behind on discussions, just go ahead and try to catch them up from last week. If you do that, maybe shoot me a quick email and let me know to go looking for them. I try to review them, but as they get older, as week 1 turns into week 2, it turns into week 3, I'm less likely to go pay a lot of attention back to week 1 unless somebody clues me in. So like I said, just a quick email or something should help with that. Aubrey, by the way, who's winning in the ball game? I can't remember.
It's just practice.
Oh, just practice. Okay. I'd rather. I would rather. Let me see. Can't see here. It's all blurry. You got the background blurred out, don't you?
I don't know how to turn that off, but yeah, it's
on your phone. I have no idea. So, but anyway. All right. Well, let's go to chapter 4 real quick. And we're going to be talking about comprehension and cognitive learning. Okay, so by the end of this chapter, you should be able to identify factors that influence consumer comprehension, explain how knowledge, meaning, and value are inseparable using the multiple store memory theory, understand how the mental associations consumers develop are key to learning, use the concept of associative networks to map relevant consumer knowledge, and apply the cognitive schema concept in understanding how consumers react to products, brands, and marketing agents. All right, so this gives us a nice little chart here, the components of consumer information processing. All right, so it goes from exposure to attention, comprehension, elaboration, and all that works its way back into your memory. Not a big fan of that one, that chart there. That's not one of my favorites. So comprehension, the way people cognitively assign meaning to and understand things they encounter. Brain activity and comprehension are connected, of course. And I better put this up before I continue to chew on ice. 3 factors related to consumer comprehension. Internal factors within the consumer powerfully influence the comprehension process. Comprehension includes both cognitive and affective elements, and every message sends signals. Signal theory, the theoretical work that explains ways in which communications convey meaning beyond the explicit or obvious interpretation. So let's talk about your internal factors. You're going to be more capable of understanding things that you're interested in. And if you're not interested in it, you kind of put it on the back burner and you don't put as much brain power and time and effort into it. So, and that's kind of one of those obvious things. And then I like the brain activity and comprehension are connected. Well, without one, you're not going to have the other, right? If you're in a coma, you're not going to be comprehending much. Factors affecting consumer comprehension are the meaning and value are inseparable, and consumers must comprehend marketing messages to learn the intended value of a product. Factors that influence what a consumer comprehends in a situation. Characteristics of a message, characteristics of a message receiver, and characteristics of a communication environment. Now, that brings me to the weird thing I've noticed now that happens, which is in a lot of these ads and commercials you watch, they go 30, 45, almost the entire commercial. I'll say they'll go 25 seconds in a 30-second commercial. They'll go 55 seconds into a 60-minute ad, or 60-second ad, excuse me. And it will have nothing to do with the product itself. And I think I feel like that's all. I don't know. If you're trying to convince me to buy a thing, tell me about the thing. What they want to do is they want to talk about, all the good the company itself does, and then they say buy Pantene, and you're like, well, yeah, fine, but why should I buy this over Head and Shoulders? Tell me what the advantages are. Okay, so what influences comprehension? Marketers believe they can affect consumer learning by carefully planning and executing of marketing communications. Okay, so the physical characteristics they're talking about are the tangible elements or parts of a message that can be sensed. Some physical characteristics that can contribute to effective communication include intensity, color, font, numbers, spacing, and shape. Look at the thing here. Okay, that's what it was. Okay, so some physical characteristics can contribute to effective communication include intensity, color, font, number, spacing, and shape. So, and these are mostly visual, right? I mean, you can't smell, you can't feel, things in an ad or commercial. Now, your auditory senses may come into play as well, but through these images, let me look here. No problem, Aubrey. Now, some of these things that they do visually and through your hearing can bring up other memories and senses. And that's why I had to look up, that's what I was looking up a while ago, was the word petrichor. Has anyone ever heard of that one? Petrichor, let me make sure I get it right, was coined in the 60s by an Australian scientist, and is the unique earthly smell associated with rain. So the smell associated, the earthly smell associated with the rain is called petrichor. I always thought that was just something neat. And now every time I hear that word, which you don't hear it often, it brings, I actually have a physical response to it, like I can almost smell the rain. Simplicity versus complexity. The simpler a message, the more likely a consumer develops meaningful comprehension. The simpler that health information can be presented, the more accurately consumers will understand the consequences. And the amount of research points to the fact. Okay, sorry guys. The simpler the health information can be presented, the more accurately consumers will understand the consequences. A larger amount of research points to the fact that simplicity is key, and terms like fat-free are better understood than numeric breakdowns. And once again, and that's why we have things say fat-free or low fat, or things of that nature. There are numerical values associated with low fat versus fat free, and we don't really care about that when we go to consume. We'll take low fat as low fat. Now, unless you're really into your diet and you're counting calories and you're counting, your protein and your carbohydrates and your sugars and your fats, and you're putting all that into some sort of consideration, then otherwise for most of us, low fat is fine. Low sugar, low sodium. We don't really, put a number factor, something that really is meaningful to it. Message congruity. The extent to which a message is internally consistent and fits surrounding information. Conventional wisdom is that congruent content will lead to improved comprehension. Moderate levels of incongruity motivate deeper processing than when everything in a string of messages is highly congruent. The result can be improved comprehension. So small to moderate levels of information is going to make you think about it a little deeper. You see what? It's the added sugars you have to watch. Look, I remember somebody told me years and years ago, and I saw it on a video later, and that sugar is more addictive than heroin, and I 100% believe it. I believe as a society we are so addicted to sugar. I am. It is terrible. My sugar consumption is way above what it should be, and I do really well. I don't know, and this may be just a me problem, but I do really well. I cut down on my sugar consumption. It's hard because it's a drug. It's between that and caffeine. Yes, I'm all over it. I can do really well, but all it takes is like me to fall off the wagon with sugar one time, and the next thing you know, I'm just pounding soda pop, and I'm like a meth head running around looking for his next hit of Snickers and Coca-Cola. So, and it is really difficult to get that. My wife is a big fan of the carnivore diet, and she excels off of it. She can give up all carbs, all sugars, and just eat meat. And within a week, she's fine and just everything's cool with her. The last time I did it for like 2 months with her, and I was miserable every single day. So not all diets are for everyone. So if you've never seen the carnivore diet, your entire diet consists of nothing but meat, salt, pepper, and water. That is pretty much everything. Nothing else. No sugars, no carbs, no sodas, no vegetables, no fruits, no nothing. Wow. And I will tell you, that diet is extreme as it is. If you ever find yourself in the point where you're just like, I want to lose 10 pounds quickly over the period of something like this. I want to get ready for the beach or vacation or whatever. I need to just take off these last 10 pounds. The weight, if you go on a high protein, low carb, like a keto or no carb diet, the weight just goes away, and it's just crazy. Now it comes back the minute you start eating bread and potatoes and stuff, but for a while, man, it's right on. And what influences comprehension? I'll skip that. I don't like these pictures. But let's go. Figure ground distinction. The notion that each message can be separated into the focal point and the background. What would the consumer comprehend from the the simple message in Exhibit 4.4? Okay. We're just going to move past that. The choice of language can influence the meaning of products. Figurative language, the use of expressions intended to send a non-literal meaning. Consumer use figurative language when describing brands that compete well in hedonic value. And then literal language when describing brands competing on a utilitarian value. So something you want as compared to something you need. When I'm, certain products, when I'm describe them to you in factual ways. I'm going to say, it's this Band-Aid sticks better than the other brands, and but it doesn't peel your skin off, and it's this and that, and these are the things. Or other times we're going to use figurative language and tell you how pretty you're going to feel by using this shampoo, or how what is it, Axe body wash, where all the girls are going to want to come sniff you if you use Axe body wash, or Axe spray, which I think is, you know, every guy has a secret stash of Axe spray somewhere in a drawer somewhere they uses in case of emergencies. But nobody, I don't think any guy who is out of high school should take that stuff seriously. Go get some cologne. Aubrey uses Axe men deodorant, and I know more about Aubrey than I ever wanted to know. And no, I'm not going to come sniff you, so I will tell you. Is it better than women's? They have me convinced that the clinical deodorant is better than anything else. So I use the, was it like $12 or $13 for a thing of deodorant? It's probably not any better, but they've got me hooked in on it. It's the, I think it's Gillette clinical strength. But I thought, didn't the commercial say strong enough? See, talk about, comprehension, strong enough for a man, but made for a woman. Isn't that what they use on one of their commercials? I don't even remember what is it. Do you remember the brand? Because I cannot remember the brand. I can just remember the slogan, which is weird. But as a guy, if you ever find yourself without deodorant and you got to use your wife's powder scent, it's a secret. Yep, that's what it is. Secret. Thank you, Sherry. Uh, if you ever find yourself in a where you got to use the baby powder scent, it's strange to walk around smelling, your underarms smell like baby powder all day. Message source of message can also influence comprehension. A source influences comprehension to varying degrees based upon characteristics like the following: likability, attractiveness, expertise, trustworthiness, and congruence. And that's why we use movie stars and models to try to influence you to buy whatever they're going to buy. That's whatever they're trying to sell you. I know the models and the actresses are big in the makeup industry, and also in the perfume, and they do the same thing with clones. That somehow if you see this extremely perfect looking guy wearing a certain cologne and all the girls want to hang out with him, then somewhere in your mind they're trying to influence you that if you wear this cologne, you are going to be as attractive to this guy. Now, we all know that's not how that works, and most of us don't spend that much time in the gym and don't have that good a skin or the genetic predisposition to be that handsome, have the square jaw or whatever. But that's what they're trying to convince you of. They also do it with sincerity, and they use accents a lot. I remember when I was a kid, I don't know, what was the guy's name? It was gosh, he was a famous actor, had a TV show. Fabio was a good one. Yep. Fabio had the looks, the hair, the accent. He made you want to believe it was
Zorro.
Bro, I'm trying to remember, what is the guy's name? Okay, I'm gonna have to look up another thing now. Gosh.
Antonio Banderas. George Clooney.
I remember, the only thing I remember about Antonio Banderas was they did a Saturday Night Live skit about it. And it was Antonio Banderas, the sexiest man alive. And so I always thought that was funny. Ricardo Montalban, back in the old days, he did a commercial for a car. I don't remember which car, but it was glycolic acid is great for you. So I'll have to remember that. I'm not even sure what glycolic acid is, but I don't know. you guys, if you're not children of the 70s, you didn't watch Fantasy Island back in the day. You only catch them maybe in reruns. And he did a car commercial as rich Corinthian leather, but he had this accent that just kind of the rich Corinthian leather rolled off the tongue and just made you want a car with with those leather seats in there. You just imagine that, Morgan Freeman's also a good one if you want to use the voice. Intelligence and ability. So we're talking about the receiver characteristics of, people receiving the message. Intelligent, well-educated consumers are more likely to accurately comprehend a message than are less intelligent or less educated consumers. A great deal of knowledge is specific to particular product categories. Even a highly intelligent consumer even a highly intelligent consumer would understand a simpler message better than a more complex message. And then you also have prior knowledge, provides resources through which other stimuli can be comprehended. So yes, a more intelligent, more educated person is going to understand stuff better than less intelligent, less educated consumers. But I think also because people with there is and I don't remember where I have the chart somewhere, I have to find it one of these days, of the more educated you are, the more money you make over a lifetime. And they go from, what's your average wage going to be if you only have a high school diploma or an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree, and you move on to master's, PhD, on and on and on. And with that, more expendable income, you're going to buy more stuff, and you're going to want more stuff. Okay, this is killing me. You're going to want more stuff because you can afford it. Not just nicer cars, nicer house, but and nicer clothes and things of that nature. But there's just going to be stuff that you can afford that they're going to be able to talk you into buying, that if you didn't have the more you didn't have a higher income, you would not be able to afford and wouldn't even consider. Okay, so let's talk about involvement. Okay, consumers are not equally involved with every message sent their way. Highly involved consumers tend to pay more attention to messages. These consumers show better recall of product information than consumers with lower levels of involvement. Now, are you in the market for something? Okay, I use cars. If you just bought a car last year and you're not in the market for a car, you're not going to pay attention to car commercials. You may look at them and go, "Oh, that's cool," but you're not going to get into them. But if you're in a market for a car, then you're going to see these commercials. Oh, that's neat, and then you're going to do more research, and you're going to do all the things that are based on that, which is, okay, what size engine does it have? What's the gas mileage? What am I looking for? What size wise? Trunk space, ground clearance, things, that means something to you. Today's technology offers the highly involved consumers lots of opportunities to engage with brands. Near field technologies allow advertising to be pushed to consumers through their smart devices, and highly involved consumers are more open to ads that less involved consumers find intrusive. So this is where we get into kind of that double-edged sword. What as all these social media companies and just large tech companies gather all this metadata on you to be able to target you with marketing, and you find it happens. If I go to Google and I start and I type in, I'm looking for cars for sale or whatever the thing is, next thing you know, on YouTube or even on Facebook, those things will start to pop up. They'll be more noticeable, more pronounced in my feed than they would in yours, because you may have went and looked up winter jackets. And children, I'll go with Aubrey because I know she has a couple of boys. boys winter jackets. And then next thing you know, they're going to be selling her jackets all over Facebook. And sometimes I do find them intrusive. It seems that these tech companies and these social media companies are becoming more like TV stations. You know, they're here to sell you a product more than they are to actually keep you in contact with your friends and family, which is how things like Facebook began, right? Okay, so familiarity and habituation. Habituation is the process by which continuous exposure to a stimulus affects the comprehension of and response to the stimulus. Look, hey, every time I see a commercial for a sausage biscuit at McDonald's, I automatically get hungry. That's another one of my bad habits. Besides sugar, is the sausage biscuit from McDonald's. Actually, the sausage egg biscuit, because if you little consumer advice, if you order on the McDonald's app once a day, you can get the sausage egg biscuit for just $1. Just order it on the app. It's one of their deals. An adaptation level, the level of stimulus to which a consumer has become accustomed. Which the other thing is, are you being just, you know, inundated with stimulus on different products all the time, and at some point, do you just stop paying attention to it? Do you flip the switch? Expectations, the belief about what will happen in some future situation. I'm gonna use Axe body spray. All the girls are gonna love me, right? I use this mascara with the new thing that makes your lashes longer, and all the guys are gonna notice your eyes. I don't know. They play an important. Okay. The expectations play an important role in many behavior settings and can impact comprehension. Physical limits. A consumer's physical limitations can influence comprehension. Okay, so looking at all your senses, vision, hearing, your sense of touch, your sense of smell, all that can influence how you comprehend things. And we know that, you know, a big part of your sense of taste is your sense of smell. So what happens to you as a person if you can no longer smell? Got a friend like that. Had actually graduated high school with him. He had a brain tumor. And part of removing the brain tumor in front of it was doing some work in his sinuses. So the guy has no sense of smell, which means a lot of food is kind of lost on him. You know, he's because a lot of it, he just doesn't taste a lot of it. So that's real wild. Okay, so brain dominance, a theory that refers to the I cannot speak today, phenomenon of hemispheric lateralization. Some people tend to be either right brain or left brain dominant. Now, how can I not say phenomenon and I can say hemispheric lateralization without a problem? Right brain dominant consumers tend to be visual processors and tend to favor images for communication. Left brain dominant consumers tend to deal better with verbal processing. So one's visually dominant, one's better with you want to hear somebody talk about it. A metaphor is a consumer in a consumer context, an ad claim that is not literally true but figuratively communicates a message. Like if you don't believe it's not butter, then you look like Fabio. I think that's the only thing I remember him being in. I don't remember what else it was. And that we all still know who Fabio is kind of a weird mark on how effective some of these some of these ads and commercials have been. That I'm not sure when the last time he was on something, but years and years later, people still remember him. Okay, so some of the environmental characteristics, we're talking about information intensity, That's the amount of information available for a consumer to process within a given environment. One of the drawbacks of frequent online social networking is burnout in the form of social networking services fatigue. The intensity of information too much too fast plays a role in reducing communication effectiveness. And that's also used many times to their advantage. So you get an entire minute commercial over the latest, greatest drug to help you with your plaque psoriasis. At the very end, then they tell you about all the possible side effects, including and up to and including death and bleeding from your ears and eyes and your head exploding and whatever else they try to move past you as quickly as possible. Okay, framing as a part of the influence of the comprehension. Framing is a phenomenon in which the meaning of something is influenced or perceived differently by the information environment. Prospect theory, the theory that suggests that a decision or argument can be framed in different ways and that the framing affects risk assessment consumers make. That is 100% true. If you frame the argument the right way, you will influence people. Priming, the cognitive process in which context or environment activates concepts and frames thoughts and therefore affects both values and meaning. The cognitive process in which context or environment activates concepts and frames thoughts and therefore affect both value and meaning. Okay, so let's look at framing here. What would you do? Choose one of the two options below. You lose $200. You have a 20% chance of losing $1,000, 8% chance of losing nothing. Okay. And then 2, choose one of the two options below. You win $200. You have a 20% chance of winning $1,000, 8% chance of winning nothing. So they frame those arguments differently between losing and winning. All right. Well, of course, when we talk about winning here, everybody's into that, right? Nobody wants to talk about losing. Nobody wants to risk losing $200, but you will risk winning $200. Some studies suggest that we comprehend more when reading from a message printed on paper than from a digital message. I don't know about that. But so whatever media we're dealing with is going to be what we're going to comprehend. The construal level theory, the construal level to which we are thinking about something using a concrete or an abstract mindset. Okay. The more concrete the mindset, the closer the event tends to seem in both time and distance. Socially distant people represent individuals who are perceived as different in terms of social class or reliability. Timing affects comprehension, 100%. Timing refers to both the amount of time a consumer has to process a message and the point in time in which the consumer receives a message. Time of day can also affect the meaning and value of a product, and the way time or age influences the interpretation of things is sometimes called zeitgeist. Now, they made a zeitgeist. I think it was a documentary years and years and years ago. I'd have to look it up again and be more interested in it. And we're not going to do group activities. Where are we at? Okay, let's try to get through some of this. We will shut off here in just a minute, though. Okay, so memory is our psychological process by which knowledge is stored. Now, memory is a tricky thing. Multiple store theory of memory. The theory that explains memory as utilizing 3 different storage areas within the human brain: sensory, workbench, and long-term. Each area is storage for a different type of memory. Let's look at it. So they're saying our sensory memory has unlimited capacity, very limited duration, we're talking about iconic memory and echoic memory. Our workbench or short-term memory has a limited capacity, limited duration, and coding takes place here. And long-term memory, unlimited capacity, unlimited duration, semantic meaning, and semantic associative network. Now, each one of these, all these are going to be intertwined. What we need to remember is between your short-term and long-term memory, long-term memory, they say, has unlimited capacity, but you don't have the unlimited capacity to draw upon those long-term memories many times. Long-term memory becomes more of a large picture as opposed to something that you're dealing with independently and right now. So, and that's, when you think back along, as far as you can to your childhood or high school or college or to some of these other places, those memories, I don't really want to say they become blurry, but they become less clear. And the emotional response to them, which is one of those things, the emotional response to these old memories is lessened as well. That's how, we get over tragedy. One of the things I've kind of learned in my life, whether it really matters with this or not, is if something is causing you distress, a memory, something has happened to you, is causing you distress that is 18 months, give or take, old or older, and when you still think about it, still cause you pain or distress, then you have not properly dealt with whatever that was, whatever trauma that was. Now, I'm not saying there are not large traumas that still cause you distress, but if the distress is almost like it's happening to you again, because I mean, and this is kind of a weird thing. My dad has been gone for 8 years. Learn to cope with him being gone, even though thinking about him being gone still caused me some sort of emotional response. It's not as if he, as fresh as it was 8 years ago. And you'll find that many people who have a trauma, that when they are faced with that trauma again, a year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years later, it's like it's happening to them all over again. And if you have any response like that, you have not properly dealt with it, and you have to find a way to deal with it, because it will eat up resources in your mind and in your emotional state, and it will cause you great harm down the road. Just some stuff nobody asked for. So, multiple store theory of acquiring, storing, using knowledge, part 2 of 4. Sensory memory, an area in memory where a consumer stores things exposed to one of the 5 senses. Sensory memory uses multiple distinctive mechanisms. Smell is one of the greatest ones. And that will happen to people, that you will smell something and it will whisk you back to the days of being a 8-year-old kid in your grandmother's kitchen, or things of that, and hopefully it's pleasant. First thing, sensory memory uses multiple distinct mechanisms. One of them is iconic storage, the storage of visual information in the sensory memory, and the idea that things are stored with a one-to-one representation with reality. Echoic memory, the storage of auditory information in sensory memory. Have haptic perception, the interpretations created by the way some objects feel. Workbench memory, the storage area of the memory system where information is stored while it's being processed and encoded for later recall. Encoding, the process by which information is transferred from a workbench memory to long-term memory for a permanent storage. And retrieval, the process by which information is transferred back into workbench memory for additional processing when needed. Now, and you'll find, my wife and I do this all the time, is when we go to we retrieve a memory, we were both there at the same time, we have the memories are going to be very, very, very similar. They're probably going to overlap by 8%, maybe more. But there are going to be details that I have that she won't, and vice versa. And so I'll remember something one way, she won't remember that part, but she'll remember a part that I won't. And so that's our memory, you know, is it's complicated. It's a super complicated thing, and I feel like, you know, we know that, you know, clinical psychologists and people, they work on this stuff for their entire lifetimes. Okay, so the relevancy of the following come quickly into play in workbench memory. Duration. The term short term is often used to describe workbench memory because this memory storage area has limited duration, although not as limited as sensory memory. The capacity limit for workbench memory is between 3 and 7 units of information. The fact is sometimes known as Miller's Law. And then involvement. The capacity of workbench memory expands and contracts based on the level of consumer's involvement. Now, short-term memory does have, if anybody's ever crammed for a test, your short-term memory really kicks in, you know, and you remember things because you crammed them in. But over the long term, when those get encoded and stored, I mean, many times you just forget about them. You know, you'll never retrieve those memories again. Never have to. I'm not going to do a group activity. All right, guys, it's only 6 minutes. Let's not start something new. What I'll do is, do we have any questions, comments, or concerns over anything we've seen so far? And it's really complicated. Memory and learning is it's extremely complicated. So if you're not real comfortable with everything we've covered here, that's fine, and you really shouldn't be. But does anyone have any questions or concerns? If not, I am going to go ahead and stop the share. And I am going to stop recording.